Coming up on this episode of Discover Health Podcast.
Temporary change gives you temporary results. Permanent change gives you permanent results. Lesson here is you want to change your life. You want to get healthier. And we're going to talk about my opinion as to how you do that in a few minutes. But the important thing is get started and do not stop.
Welcome to the Discover Health Podcast, where we explore the power of gut health, nutrition, and lifestyle to help you feel your best every day. I'm Dr. Josh Sharp, your guide on this journey to better digestion, more energy, and overall well-being. Ready to start discovering? Let's hit the trail. Welcome back to another episode of Discover Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Joshua Sharp, and joining me today is Stanley Bronstein. He's an author of multiple books. He's an attorney. He's a CPA. He's a mindset coach and a walking and weight loss expert who lost over 220 pounds without drugs or surgery, and he's kept it off for nearly 17 years. He's the creator of the Way of Excellence personal development system, and he's the founder of the Million Pound Weight Loss Challenge, a free global health movement built on healthy mindset, eating, and movement. Stanley, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, doctor.
If you wouldn't mind, could you please provide us with some insights into your early life and the factors that you think contributed toward your journey, toward obesity?
Okay. Real simple. I had a clear starting point. My mother died when I was 8 years old. And needless to say, that messed with my head. And here I am, 8 years old, living with my massively obese father, who all he knew was he knew to work hard, provide for his family, put food on the table, and cook and eat. And we both just literally ate ourselves into oblivion. And from that time on, you can look at the pictures. I just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of men like to brag if they're the same size they were when they got married. Well, I'm smaller than I was when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I don't know whether that's an accomplishment or sick or sad or whatever, but it's the truth. So there you go. So I embarked on a life of obesity. Basically, food was my lever. It was my emotional comfort, my emotional support. The only problem is it was a fickle lever. It was not, the things I were doing were not good for me. So here I am, I'm getting into high school. I had friends, but I didn't have the dating relationships, that I normally would have had because the women didn't want to go out with me because I was so big. Get off to college, same thing. Then my senior year in college, I lost a bunch of weight, probably 75, 80 pounds. But I went on a road trip with some friends of mine, and there were cookies in the back seat, and the cookies and I became friends. And I went right back to my old habits, and the weight came back on plus more. So lesson number one, temporary change is going to give you temporary results. I made changes that lost weight, stopped doing them, weight came back on. Plus, to be quite frank with you, I lost it doing keto diet, which I am not an advocate of. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not an advocate of one rigid thing like that. I believe in variety. So I didn't learn good habits, so the weight came back on and more. Then when I graduated, became a CPA, I started a company. My brother and I started a company, and we're working one day and we got in an argument, as brothers sometimes do. And he starts screaming at me, he says, "You ought to go to law school." And I said, "You're absolutely right." So I showed him. I went to law school, became a lawyer, totally changed my life. So thank you, bro.
So I want to go back just for a brief moment. And you talked about having this unhealthy relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine the difficulty at that age, losing a parent, especially a mother, and what that must be like. I know it must be very, very difficult. But you talked about food became like a place that you turned to. What were some of the emotions or what were some of the things that you found yourself, different things in your life where you would immediately go to food for comfort? Like what was that relationship like? What were some of the stressors that would cause you to seek comfort from food?
I don't think it was a conscious turning to food. I think it was
Mm.
just a habit.
Yeah.
I think it's what I turned to, and it became a habit. See, and one of the things that happened when my mother died, I emotionally shut down. I did not cry. I did not cry during the experience. I did not cry during the funeral, any of those things. But I will tell you in a minute how life sometimes accidentally gives us an opportunity to heal, which it did. I mean, but at her funeral, I was a stone cold 8-year-old standing around by himself. After the conversation with my brother, I went to law school and I graduated. But my last year in law school, just like my last year in college, I lost a bunch of weight. I went to Weight Watchers. I lost 100 pounds. But I didn't learn good eating habits. All I learned was portion control. I was eating all processed food. It was all those frozen Weight Watchers dinners with the pretty pictures on the cover. But I did make one interesting permanent change that did help me. One of the problems I had at that time was I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would eat a full meal in the middle of the night. Not a snack, a full meal. And when I started on Weight Watchers, I said, I need to stop that. So I would get up in the middle of the night and I would pull the package out of the freezer, the box that had the pretty picture on it. I would look at the picture. I would say, I've eaten 100 of these. I know what they taste like. I said, that was good. And then I'd put the box back in the freezer and I'd go back to sleep. So I didn't identify it at the time. But what I learned way back then, and I since practice all the time now, you can taste food without putting it in your mouth.
I
You
believe
can.
you.
Okay. This also applies to alcoholics. You can have a drink without it going down your throat. Applies to people who smoke cigarettes. You can smoke a cigarette without lighting it. It's in your head. What you imagine is teaching yourself to do this, learn to do this. I use those tricks to help people break their addictions all the time. So I lost all this weight. I got small enough to where women were interested in, starting to get interested in me. But about a year or two after I graduated, something interesting happened. This is where life gave me an opportunity to heal 28, 29 years later from my mother dying. One of my mother's sisters, an aunt, died. And I went to her funeral. And when I went to her funeral, I walked into the cemetery. And what was standing there in front of me? There were two young boys. One was like 9 and one was 6. They were cousins of mine. I'd never met them before. This was their grandmother who died. And the 6-year-old was standing by himself, stone cold, not crying, with a dumbfounded look on his face. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So I sat there and I said, that's me. And I said, I will be damned if I let happen to that kid what happened to me. I went over to him. I introduced myself to him. I told him, I'm your cousin. I told him, I know exactly how you feel. When I was around your age, I had the exact same thing when my mother died. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel. And I told him it's okay to cry. And I put my arms around him and I did not let go until he started crying. And needless to say, all the tears that did not come out at my mother's funeral came out at that funeral. So I was given an opportunity to literally, they tell you, talk to your inner child. I got to meet him face to face and hug him. But the story gets even better. At the funeral, there was an elderly Orthodox gentleman. I'm Jewish. A lot of Orthodox Jews do not believe kids belong in cemeteries. They don't like kids going to funerals. They think they don't belong there. So in front of 20 or 30 people, he says, "What are these kids doing here at this funeral? Kids don't belong in cemeteries." Well, for one of the few times in my life, I snapped. I mean, snapped. I lost it. I turned to him in front of these 20, 30 people, and I said, "That was their grandmother. If there's anybody who belongs here at this funeral, it's those two kids. And if there's anybody who doesn't belong at this funeral, it's you. You can get out of here right now." And he shut up and he did not say another word. So not only did I get to meet my inner child, not only did I get to hug my inner child, I got to stand up and defend him too. So it was a beautiful opportunity to heal.
Yeah. In the Bible, Solomon, writing in Ecclesiastes, says it's better to go to funerals, than to be going to parties. And I think one of the reasons is we recognize, life is short and bad things happen in this world. There's a lot of bad and hard things, but when you go to funerals and you get the sense of reality of this is all the time I got here on earth. And
Yeah.
I think it does something really good for you in a lot of ways. It just shows you that, okay, I need to make the most of whatever time I've got. And I think there's
Needless
a
to
lot of
say, I
benefit.
believe kids do belong at funerals, but I also have a flip side to what you just said too. The next time you have a family function where you maybe have to travel out of town, like for example, I have to go to Texas 2 times in 3 weeks in August for a 90th birthday party and for another family function. The last thing I want to do is travel 2 times in 3 weeks, but as a friend of mine told me, and I agree with him, anytime you can get together with your family and it's not a funeral, you probably should go. So there's
I agree with that.
so so there's multiple ways of looking at it, like always.
Absolutely.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Absolutely.
So here I am. I'm now about 30 years older. I'm in my 30s, 32, 33, young, and I'm starting to date. And I met a woman. We got married, still married to her. But that was good. And then we moved to Arizona. I started my own law and accounting practice. And there you go. I went back to my old habits and I started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I just, this is what I was when I was at my full weight, 367 on the left. I had like a 58-inch waist. And now I didn't get back to my full 367. I only got to 320. And I chalked that up to that one thing that I learned, which was to not eat meals in the middle of the night. That one permanent change was good for a 47-pound weight loss permanently. So here's the second part of the story. Temporary change gives you temporary results. Permanent change gives you permanent results. We're going to focus on that permanent in a couple of minutes when we get to it. Here I am. I'm getting towards 50 years old, 4 months before my 50th birthday. I'm 66 now. That was 17 years ago. February 1st, 2009, like many men do when they're approaching, and women too, when you're approaching a milestone age, you start saying, where am I? What have I done? What have I done right? What have I done wrong? Where am I going? I said, where am I going to be in 5 years if I keep going the way I'm going? Care to guess what the answer was?
When your drainage system backs up, your body cannot eliminate waste effectively, and that leaves you vulnerable to chronic inflammation and illness. Bowel Mover supports healthy elimination at the colon, keeping your drainage funnel flowing. Find it at discoverhealth.gethealthy.store. High quality supplements for real healing. And don't forget to use code FIRST10 for 10% off your first order. Well,
Dead.
the trajectory
Dead.
doesn't look like it's headed towards somewhere great. Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
Cold hard dead. And guess what? I didn't want to be dead. So I said, I need to make some changes right now, not next week, not next month, not next year, right now. Now let's back up for 1 minute. You notice I said it was February 1st, 2009. It wasn't January 1st.
Right.
Because like so many people, I made a New Year's resolution that I did not keep. Today is February 13th, as we're recording this. How many people joined a gym or went on a diet or whatever at New Year's who've broken it by now?
Right. But 80%, I think it's like
Yeah,
over 8.
it's huge. So,
Yeah, it's
but the
huge.
point, but the point is, there's a lesson here to be learned. I broke my resolution. I didn't make it, and I failed. I failed miserably, but I didn't beat myself upside the head. I didn't blame myself. I didn't punish myself. I just said, okay, let's start again. See, that was something I did different. That was not the first time in my life that I told myself I needed to lose weight, but it was the first time I acted upon it and the first time I didn't quit. So the lesson here is, you want to change your life. You want to get healthier. And we're going to talk about my opinion as to how you do that in a few minutes. But the important thing is, get started and do not stop.
Do
Now,
something. Yeah.
yeah, but now realize, you are a human being. You are going to mess up. I guarantee it. You are not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. There are no perfect human beings. You're not going to be the first. Believe me, I tried and I didn't make it. So the point is, don't even beat yourself up over that. Realize it. Know in advance you're going to fail. When you know something, mistakes are proof that you're trying. Just pick yourself back up. You fall off the wagon, hop back on the wagon, get going again. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that's where there's power in that.
So I was just going to go back to those. You lost weight at the end of, when you were in college, you lost weight when you were in law school, but it didn't stick.
Nope.
And then this time, obviously it was different. What was your mindset going into the first weight loss, the second weight loss, and what was the difference between this last time where it's stuck
Okay.
for 17
I,
plus years?
I'll tell you right now, all the other times I lost weight, it was something I have to do. I have to do. I have to do. It was punishment. This time, and I didn't realize it at the time, but looking at it in retrospect, these are things I've figured out. My perspective changed. It was something I got to do. It was a privilege. I'm still alive. It was a privilege to learn to eat better. It was a privilege to start walking, to start exercising. I'll tell you part of what got me walking. Okay, let me give you a little bit more backstory, and then we'll get right to this. Okay, I said, I need to make changes right now. As I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I'm cooked. Now, I had not hit rock bottom. I had not had a heart attack yet. I had not had a stroke yet. Those things were coming. As I like to say, I was committing slowicide. I was slowly eating myself to death. But those things hadn't come yet. So there's a lesson right there. You don't have to hit rock bottom to change. Also, it took me 49 and a half years to get my head on straight to where I was ready to change my life in an instant. Well, I work with people now how to teach them to change their life in an instant without waiting 49 and a half years to do it. You don't have to do that. That's what I did, but you don't have to do what I did. So here's the changes I made right away. First thing I did was I quit drinking alcohol. I was drinking scotch every day. Was I an alcoholic? I don't know. Was I drinking too much? Yes. Was the alcohol serving me or was I serving it? I was serving it. So I said, no more alcohol. I took my last bottle of scotch. I believe in symbolism here. I opened up the toilet. I poured it down the toilet. I hit flush. Gone. Have not had a drink in 17 years. Those 2-liter bottles of soda pop, I used to drink 3 of those a day. It's disgusting.
That's a lot of soda.
Hang on, but they were diet caffeine free, so surely they were healthy, right? No, the soda
That,
companies are not.
that's how they're marketed.
They are misleading you.
Yeah.
They are not healthy.
No.
They're garbage, and these are all my opinions. So but they're garbage. So I took my last 2-liter bottle of soda, poured it down the toilet, hit flush, gone. Then I said, I want to make some dietary changes. So I quit eating beef and pork. And the interesting thing, that was an accomplishment for me because my father was a butcher and I grew up in a house with unlimited free meat. And to quit eating beef and pork, that was an accomplishment when you think about it. But I like chicken and turkey so much, I didn't care. That was fine. I can do that. And then I started walking every day. Now, and in the beginning, I had trouble walking 2 or 3 blocks. And I live at the top of the hill and I'd be huffing and puffing on the way back home, walking back up the hill. But I did it and I kept going. By my 50th birthday, I'd lost about 50 pounds and I kept going. And there were days where I did not want to walk. But here's where I learned the privilege part, where I told you it's my privilege to do what I did. I met a woman 2 years earlier, 2007, in Honolulu. She was an artist. Her name was Peggy Chun. Peggy had Lou Gehrig's disease. She was completely bedridden. She was on a ventilator, could not speak. The only way she could communicate, trained people could hold up an eye chart and they could read her eye movements. She could spell out words. And I interviewed her for a book I was writing. Now, when I saw her, the thought that went into my mind was, if I ever get like this, please put a pillow over my head and take me out. Well, that was not her attitude. Her attitude was, my grandkids are coming over later today. It's a pretty day. We're going to go to the park and we're going to go paint together. And I told her how I was getting ready to drive around the whole United States and interview 50 people for a book I was writing. And she was the first one I had talked to. And she said, that sounds so exciting. Tell me about all these people. I wished I could go with you. This woman had joy for life. And so I sat there and how they say, what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, anytime I had a morning where I didn't feel like getting out of bed and walking, I said, what would Peggy Chun do if she could?
Yeah.
And I said, Peggy Chun would have gotten her lazy butt out of bed and she'd have gone walking and she might not ever come back, and that was a powerful lesson.
That was a perspective shift.
Yes,
Uh,
it was my privilege.
So you're talking about some very powerful things here. And if I can, I just want to make some connections for some people. Obviously, your journey was weight loss, it was shifting your health trajectory. And I think for so many, we can definitely identify with the weight loss journey. We can definitely identify with, okay, I want to make my health a little bit better. But these are things that every aspect of your life, every area of your life where you're not living up to what you feel like you should be doing and where you feel like you're messing up, these shifts, these mindset changes can be monumental for so many different things. This isn't an episode only about weight loss. This is just an episode about transformation. And so I just want to encourage people, and as you said, if you're still sucking air, if you're still alive, if you've still got breath in your lungs, your heart's still beating, then guess what? You get to live, you get to be part of this planet. And then you get to wake up every day and choose the impact that you're going to have. And you get to choose whether it's going to be a good day for you. You can't choose what happens to you always, but you can choose how you respond. And so I love that you saw Peggy, you saw what she was going through, the difficulty that she faced. You saw her limitations, and yet she still had a great attitude. And that did something for you. And I think we could all take a lesson from that.
Yes. And that's why I've always been a systems thinker. In my business career, I have been paid to prevent problems and I've been paid to take complicated things and make them simple. So what I did was I said, how do I turn this into a system? Because like you, I realized this is not just about weight loss. My story is weight loss, but there's more to it there too. I mean, you can say, not only is it weight loss, you can say I stopped drinking. You can also say I got my stuff together. I did lots of other things. So it's many things. So I said, how do I turn this into a system? Well, the first thing I did was I realized the goal is not perfection. The goal is excellence. Like I told you before, you're not perfect. You're not going to be perfect. Don't try. Learn something. I am no longer a perfectionist. I am a good enoughist. If something is good enough, it's good enough. That doesn't mean you can't make it better. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try to make it better, but it means you should also be happy while you're doing that. Because and sometimes, it's a waste of energy to try to improve on some things. You might
Yeah.
be better focused on something else. So I realized the goal's not perfection, the goal's excellence. So I said, what are the qualities of an excellent human being? Well, in the beginning, I came up with 14. Then I quickly added a 15th and a 16th. And then every time I would run into a problem, I would run it through the system. And I quickly figured out 4 other things were missing. So I came up with it, rounded out at 20. The system I created is called the Way of Excellence. And you could tell the accountant in me how anal this chart is. Everything's color coded. Everything lines up nice and neat.
It's kind of
Everything.
spreadsheet shaped also.
Yes, and this is all on my website. First of all, everything I'm telling you is on my website and it's available for free. And the reason why it's available for free is because I'm in a position in my life where I can give you these things for free.
That's great.
Now, listen to this. All these people who are trying to sell you all these food and these weight loss drugs and everything else, they may or may not care about you, but they do care about your money. They want your money. I make this available for free because the mission is more important than the money. The message is more important than the money. See, I'm a believer. Would I change some of the experiences I went through if I could? Yes. Would I do some things differently if I could? Yes. Am I sorry that I did what I did and went through what I went through? No. Going through what I went through was necessary in order to teach me the things that I have learned and to turn me into the person I am today and to put me in the position to help other people the way I can today. So I said, so I turned this into a system, way of excellence. And there's all kinds of traits involved in there. I'm going to cover a couple of them, not the whole
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
The first one is awareness. That day when I woke up, February 1st, 2009, that was not the first time I told myself I needed to do something or I'm going to be dead. It was the first time that I acted upon it permanently. So there are 2 components to awareness: becoming aware. Now stop BSing yourself, tell yourself the truth, but then permanently acting on it. That's important. Second thing, life is a long-term process. This is a long-term game we are playing. Problem is we live in a short-term world. Everything is instant gratification, instant. You want something on TV, movie streaming on TV instantly. You want food delivered, call Uber. You want something from Amazon, get Amazon Prime, you get it today or tomorrow. You want an answer, Alexa, Siri, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. You get your answers instantly. That's all wonderful. That's fine. But that's not the way life is. Life is a long-term game. Every time I was going to a Chinese buffet and I was stuffing myself to the gills, I was getting short-term pleasure, but I was sacrificing my long-term.
Yeah, absolutely.
And conversely, every time I started putting only healthy food in my mouth, in the beginning, I did not enjoy that food nearly as much as the Chinese buffet. But it was for my long-term future. I didn't see the results immediately. I had a couple of times during the weight loss process, I had one time I had 2 or 3 months where I was doing everything right and I didn't lose an ounce, and then all of a sudden my body, it was like it was in a plateau. My body threw something off. I had one day where I had a cold sweat or something like that. And then I lost 20, 30 pounds in like 5 minutes. It was like my body, because that's one of the problems. And you'll know this when you lead a life of overuse, like I did, all of these chemicals, these toxins, these unhealthy food products, everything, they store in my body fat.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that as I was losing weight, every single thing I encountered as I was putting on the weight, I went through in reverse order as the weight was coming off.
Yeah, we call that retracing. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, in the detox world, emotions, thoughts, all kinds of stuff will come back.
I
Yeah,
had
as
I
you're
had
going back.
mornings where I woke up with a hangover, even though I hadn't had a drink in over 5 years. And I woke up with a hangover. Where'd that come from? It was in my fat.
Yeah.
Um, so so it's a long-term game. Okay, take personal responsibility. That's number 3. It wasn't my mother's fault that she died when I was 8 and she didn't prepare me for it. It wasn't my father's fault that he had no clue how to eat a healthy diet. It wasn't my fault. Blame is irrelevant. All that matters is what needs to be done to fix the problem, and are you going to do it? And if you're a politician in Washington, that's a message for you right there.
That's right. The blame
Blame is
game,
irrelevant.
it doesn't do any good. Yeah.
No good. Then I started being more positive, focusing on the positive. Then I started taking actions that were consistent with what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to lose weight and get in shape. Well, going to Chinese buffets and sitting on my butt aren't going to get that done.
Mhm.
So instead, I started bringing healthy food to work, and I started eating healthy food, and I started walking every day. And lo and behold, things started happening. Then persistence, number 11. Get going, never stop, never stop. You know what my favorite animal is? My role model, my favorite animal is the snail. They are steady, they are diligent, they are persistent, they get where they're going no matter how long it takes. That's me. I get going and I never stop. Okay. Then respect, you know, first of all, learning to respect others. Sometimes you encounter people in your life who are pretty nasty people and you find it hard to respect them. Well, when you respect them, you should respect them anyway, because respect is a measure of your character, not theirs. You're the kind of person who respects. And while you're at it, respect yourself. I used to complain that I didn't get the level of respect I wanted from other people, all while I was walking around at 300 plus pounds. So I was outwardly showing these people that on some level, I didn't respect myself enough to take care of myself. Is it any wonder they didn't respect me as much as I wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then there's balance. I learned balance. I learned a good definition of balance in a Tai Chi class one day. Balance is identifying everything that's deficient and increasing it, identifying everything that's excessive and decreasing it. That's balance. And I learned that balance is not something you're going to find. It's something you intentionally, consciously create. I work with people all the time to help them create balance. You know, then, then we come to what I call the 4 factors. These are some of the things that got added on at the very end of the system. We're going to cover these real quickly. First one is willingness. Number 16. Okay. If you are not, okay, I used to think the 3 most important words in the English language were I love you. Well, I've changed my mind. The 3 most important words in the English language are you willing? If you are not willing to permanently change, if you're not willing to permanently do what it takes for the rest of your hopefully very long, hopefully very healthy, hopefully very happy life, you're not going to get what you want. If you're not willing,
Yeah. Well said.
no,
Yeah.
nothing
That's
else
true.
matters. Okay.
Yeah.
Belief. Okay. Belief. The experience of losing as much weight as I did, keeping it off, and turning into a walking machine. When I say walking machine, I went from a person who could only walk 2 or 3 blocks to a person who walks 10 to 15 miles every day. And I
10
do
to
it
15 miles a day.
every day.
You don't have a car?
I have a car. I don't use it. I don't use it nearly as much. But no, I do. And I have a computer on my I have a treadmill at home. I have a computer on it. I can walk at 2.25 miles an hour and work while I'm walking. I had a doctor many years ago suggest to me, put a computer or a phone on your treadmill in your office and just walk at a very slow speed while you're doing that. It's very, very good advice. So I do that. But the experience of doing what I do blew my mind. I'm a confident man. I'm an attorney and a CPA who's had a very successful career, but this blew my mind. It taught me 2 things and raised an important question. The first thing it taught me was that I'm more powerful than I ever imagined. I still have not found, it has been 17 years. I still have not found my limits. I'm getting better. I'm getting better every day, better every year. I'm 66. I feel like I'm 30, 35. I just had my physical a couple of weeks ago. I'll put my blood work numbers against any 30-year-old, and they'll probably blow them out of the park. I'll put my walking activities up against almost any 30-year-old. I'll outwalk them. I'll walk till they drop and I'll keep going. So I'll do these things. Now, the second thing it taught me is that if I'm more powerful than I ever imagined, so is everybody else. I am no more special than you. You are no more special than me. We are all special. You are more powerful than you ever imagined. Take that. If you take one thing away from this is it. You're more powerful than you ever imagined. Now that you know you're more powerful than you ever imagined, it leads to a question, which is a question I ask myself. If I'm capable of doing all these things, what else is out there waiting for me to do that I haven't done yet that I should be doing? That's where the Way of Excellence came from. That's where the $1,000,000 Weight Loss Challenge came from. That's why I'm working to help people improve their lives, because I believe the world can become a better place. I believe the world is already fantastic. I just think it has a lot of people in there who need to work on themselves, who get to work on themselves. It is our privilege to work on ourselves. And if we would all collectively do this, the world would be a lot better place. So that's the important question. Now, here, we're almost done. Discipline. I don't mean punishment. I mean self-discipline. I mean identifying all your negative habits, getting rid of them. Drinking alcohol every day, done, gone. Drinking soda pop every day, gone. Sitting on my butt every day, gone. Eating crappy food every day, gone. Eating healthy food every day, yes. Not drinking alcohol every day, yes. Walking every day, yes. Meditating, finding time for myself every day, yes. So you identify all your negative habits, getting rid of them, create new positive habits. Anybody wants to know about creating habits, there's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Fantastic book. I highly
Yeah, it's a good
recommend.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recommend it as well. A
Yes.
lot of good ideas
Very,
in there.
very good. Now, then everything I told you sounds pretty hard, doesn't it? Well, it's easier than you think, because there's a trick to it, and I'm about to teach it to you. It's number 19, commitment. When you become 100% committed to something, it becomes much easier because it takes away the need to make decisions. Because every time you have to make a decision, there's a chance you might make the wrong decision. If you make the decision one time permanently, if you make the right decision one time permanently and stick with it, you don't have to make any more decisions. Example, my wife and I, we were walking the dogs in the neighborhood the other day. Neighbor comes out. Somebody gave her a bunch of key lime. She had just made key lime pie. She brought us out 2 pieces. She said, Stanley, I know you're not going to eat it. She knew me well enough. We've had discussions before. She said, I know you're not going to eat it, but she asked my wife if she wanted some. She took it. And the thought of eating it never entered my mind. I didn't ask myself, should I eat it? I didn't ask myself, could I eat it? I could have eaten that. I could have eaten a piece of that pie. It would not have killed me. It would have not, at this point, I'm confident it would have not set me back on the course that I used to be on. But I've already had my lifetime share of pie, and yours, and probably 20 other people's. I don't need it anymore. I have no business eating that pie. So what did I do? I smelled it. I was able to identify all the ingredients in the pie. I was able to visualize what it tasted like. And I said, okay, that was good. And I didn't eat it. And I didn't touch it. You know, same thing with my walking every day. It has been 8 years since I missed a day walking. And my definition of walking is I walk 2 or more hours a day. I call that walking. It has been 8 years. And the only time I did that was 8 years ago. I was sick for 3 days. And if you go back before that, it was 12 years. If you'd have told me that those 3 days would have interrupted a 12-year streak, I would have walked those 3 days even though I was sick. That's how determined I am. So I don't ask myself, am I going to walk today? I walk every day. It is who I am. My identity has changed. I am a person who only puts healthy food in their mouth. I am a person who walks every day. That's how the person on the left became the person on the right. They have the same DNA. They're the same person, but they're not the same people.
They make different decisions. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And I like
So-
that you pointed out that you changed from the inside out. Your identity shifted, and all your decisions were made for you at that point. And that's a great way to do it, as opposed to, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do next time somebody offers me, or
Yeah.
next time I'm in this. Make the decision beforehand, and then the decision's already made. Then you know
We
the answer. You know you don't have to wait for it.
we went to Europe. Yeah, we went to Europe for 9 days. I didn't have any problem eating healthy the whole time because I made up my mind beforehand that I was only going to eat healthy. And I only ate when I could find healthy foods. Can I take a couple of minutes and tell people what I advocate and what I recommend people do if they want to get started? Just real quick. Do we have 2, 3
Yeah,
minutes?
yeah, and, if you would, just share your website and where
I
people
will.
could find the resources as well.
I will. Okay. I recommend people do 4 things. If you want to get started getting healthier and losing weight, I recommend 4 things. And Dr. Sharp and I went over this list before we talked, so I think there are things he'll approve of. So, okay, first one, eat less processed foods and more natural foods. You notice I'm not saying never eat processed foods. I personally, I no longer eat processed foods. I don't and I won't. And I think the less processed food you eat, the better. However, I'm not telling you you can't have it. Just don't make McDonald's, Burger King, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the places. Don't make those your primary places to get your food.
Absolutely, yeah.
That kind of thing. More healthy, natural food. Okay. Second thing, quit eating 4 to 5 hours before going to bed. The reason why I say that is there's a process known as autophagy. It takes 13, 14 hours. If you don't eat food for 13, 14, 15 hours, your body starts cleaning itself out. It cleans out its cells because your body needs time to process all the food you put inside of it. So if you say you eat your dinner at 6 o'clock and you go to bed at 11 and you don't eat any snacks, that's 5 hours right there. Then you sleep for 7, 8 hours. So then you've got 12, 13 hours, whatever. Your body's had time to clean itself out, to process your food, to heal itself. Those are things that you want to do. So I recommend, my grandfather used to say, don't eat before you go to bed. You're taking your food to bed with you. My father and I used to laugh at him. Well, if he were alive now, I'd give him a hug and I'd tell him you were right. But I didn't know what I know now. Okay. 3, walk at least 20 minutes a day. And you don't have to walk fast. I walk at 2.25 miles an hour. I don't walk fast at all, but I don't stop. And where I came up with the 20 minutes, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends a minimum 150 minutes a week of aerobic activity. If you do 20 minutes a day, 7 days, that's 140 minutes. That's close enough. So you sit there and do that 20 minutes a day. Then last thing is I recommend that you take 15 minutes a day instead of decide for yourself. Me time, just you. If you have a comfortable chair, you can get the comfortable chair. If you know how to meditate, you can meditate. If you want a quiet room, you can get a quiet room. If you want to pray, go pray. Do whatever it is you want to do, whatever it is you like to do, but at least 15 minutes a day for yourself. Now, let me ask you, doctor, if every able-bodied American would eat less processed food, would quit eating 4 to 5 hours before they go to bed, walk at least 20 minutes a day, and meditate or relax at least 15 minutes a day, do you think we'd be a healthier country?
It would be a completely different country, that's for sure,
Yeah,
without a doubt. Yeah.
yeah, big time.
Yep.
But nobody's saying that, or not very few people are saying that. That's not the message we're being fed.
Yeah,
We're being
that's
told,
right.
take
The
weight loss
people
drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, the people that have the biggest megaphones, that's not what they're saying. There's a lot of people saying it, but they're not the ones that are, shouting it with the huge megaphones. That's coming
Well, I've
from
got a pretty big
other
mouth.
place.
And And see, and I'm playing the long-term game.
It's wise.
Yes, long-term. They might beat
Well,
me today, but they're not going to beat me over time. Now, let's close. I assume that's where you're headed toward, right?
yeah.
Okay. If you want to find this information, you can go to my website at thewayofexcellence.com. Thewayofexcellence.com. Please put that in the show notes.
I will.
Now, if you go there, here's what you will find. You will find a starting page that introduces you to the system, and it will take you to 20 videos on one on each of the 20 concepts. They're 8 to 12 minutes each. So I told you 15 minutes a day for yourself. Start there. Go to the website, come back every day, start with number 1, then number 2, number 3. The concepts were put in a specific order for a specific reason. They build on each other. Sit there and do one of those a day. After a month, you will have completely gone through the system. You will have learned the whole system, and you'll be in a much better shape. And I have 9 of my books, all available there digitally for free.
That's great.
Nothing there. And one I recommend you might want to start with, The Way of the Long Term. It talks about everything we talked about here. Life is a long-term game. And I'm going to close with one thought. Here's what your goal is. Beat yesterday. You want to be better today than you were yesterday, better tomorrow than you were today. But realize you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. So sometime, look, back when I started, February 1st, 2009, I started with a failure. I made a New Year's resolution and I failed. But when I woke up and said, I'm going to start again, that was beating yesterday.
Absolutely.
So as long as you pick yourself back up, you are beating yesterday. So just keep going.
Good advice. Keep it simple. We overcomplicate things. One good decision today can get you started, and you build momentum. And once you build momentum, it gets easier to make those good decisions over and over again. And if you mess up, as you will, and as everybody does, start again. I think those are wise words. And thank you so much for taking the time to share your journey and to share your story. And thank you for what you're doing and the work that you're doing, because you've taken what was a difficult and challenging situation for yourself, and you've turned that around, and now you've used what you've learned and the experience that you've had to try to help other people. And I think that you've definitely got a passion for it. And so I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing in the future. Thanks again for being on the show. And I will definitely put Stanley's links below this episode in the podcast description. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, it's going to be right below this episode. Thanks again, Stanley. And hopefully we can catch up sometime in the future.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks for tuning in to the Discover Health podcast. Remember, your health is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next week.